Hey everyone, Adam here. Really excited to be here again with you today on YouTube and talking more about website business development and just kind of how you can grow your business and take that next step. So, today we're going to be talking more about business development and pricing strategy. So, one of the biggest things that you have to remember is you need to be able to create your own business pricing model. And this is not something you have to create from scratch. You can look at other people and what they're pricing and what they're doing, but you do need to define how it's going to work for you and how it's going to be profitable. So, we're going to talk about that. We're also going to be talking about profit margins. What is the net, your gross profit margin? What are the kind of target goals that you should be looking at when you're talking about websites and more of a digital strategy side of things. And then we're also going to talk about overhead costs and fixed costs versus variable today. So we're just going to kind of keep it to the basics, but this should be a really, really good building block for you to be able to understand your business, where you're going, what you're able to do with it, and also how profitable it could be potentially. For number one, when you're getting into your pricing model, are you a product model? Are you selling a product? Even though it might feel like a service on your side, if you're selling a 5-page website that has the exact same thing, exact same style, same features for everyone, that is much more of a product model and you're going to be charging them more of a fixed rate. Are you a service model where you go a little bit more of an hourly rate, right? So it's like, hey, if you want to be able to do 100 hours, it's going to be at this rate for this price. And then there's a hybrid approach where you can do a service model, but price it a little bit more like a product, but you're calculating it based on how much time it takes you to do it. So you're giving your clients a fixed cost, but you're not calculating that based on economies of scale or being able to do that quickly. You're basing it on how much time it would really take you to do that, and you're presenting that in a more of a this phase approach, or a here's this part one and part two, this fixed cost for part one will be this, part two of the project will be this much overall, and this is what you're getting. Now with the pricing model, my biggest recommendation, I've talked about this previously in my other videos, is not to go hourly. It gets a little bit combative. A client can be like, hey, why is it taking you 20 hours to do this amount of work? It would take me 5 hours to do that. The clients, I don't know why they always come back and say they could do it better because they're hiring you for their services. But again, it is a real world scenario where people can talk with you and try to negotiate you down, and then therefore your price goes down. But when you have a fixed cost with fixed deliverables, you're able to negotiate on the deliverables, on the quality versus the price. So think about that when you get into your pricing model, how you want to be able to price yourself and also the model which you're going to be following. Going into profit margins, in terms of website development, you should have very high margins, right? If you're selling a product, let's say you create a theme or a child theme for a specific theme and you're out there selling it, you don't have to make a lot of money per one because you're going to get that volume. But with websites, especially ones that are even simple, it's going to take you a few weeks to be able to close the client, to be able to bring people in, to be able to do the work, to be able to deliver it, and be able to hand it off, right? In order to account for that time invested, your overhead along the way, you're going to want to make sure you have a nice margin. So the rule of thumb here is that you need to factor in your profit from the get-go. How much of a profit do you want to have per project? So let's say you have a project that's $1,000, right? And you're charging a client $1,000. Of that, 20% should be profit, 80% should be going to your salary, fixed costs, other time invested, other people on your team. 80% should go. So the rule of thumb is an 80-20, where you're setting aside from the beginning 20% profitability. I'm not talking about just breaking even, all that. I'm talking about that is the money you're going to have in the bank after you finish that project. And I'm also factoring in variable costs that we're going to be talking about right now with overhead, your fixed costs, your variable costs. So before you even can get to that 20% profitability, and you know what that means, you need to understand all of your costs. You need to understand per project, what are your costs, and per fixed costs, meaning you're not having any projects, you still have to pay those amounts, right? So things like rent, internet, utilities, and certain things, those are fixed costs. No matter if you're doing the work or not, you're still going to have to pay them. Tools, subscriptions, all of that fall into that. But variable might be labor, hours, Potentially, if you already have salaries that are fixed salaries per month, maybe you have that as a fixed cost because you don't have to pay them no matter if you have worked for them or not. So figure out what are your variable, what are your fixed, and do the math to calculate base fixed cost, and then also factor in hours worked if you have this many projects, which is potentially per project. You can even out, let's say 4 projects a month, so that you can factor out your variable cost per project, and then you factor in your fixed cost. That should influence your pricing. And then you're able to add on 20% profit on top of that, so that at the end of the day, you're accounting for all of your costs, you're accounting for any variables and your fixed costs, and then you're adding profit on top of that. That way you can make sure you're profitable and you're able to sell well, and you're able to account for each and every project that you're doing. So let's say you're doing $1,000 project, 20% of that, $200 is profit. Let's say you do 4 of them per month, $4,000. You're doing that $800 in profit that month. Multiply that by 12. You're looking at about $9,600 worth of profit. Now, that's also a very small number, probably not a realistic number. But if you're talking that that's just pure profit, you're already paying yourself, you're doing these things, that shows cases that you can invest that money into something else. You can build your business. You potentially could have a nice stockpile to be able to distribute to investors or to yourself, or be able to keep it in hand for other things in the future, like new computers, investing in equipment, hiring new people with a little bit of runway, things like that. So keep that in mind as you're going through your pricing. Negotiate on value add, meaning deliverables, not on the price, and make sure you understand your model as you go through. So with that being said, I really want to talk more about the subject, but I just want to start at the basic levels of really understanding how you're going to calculate your cost, how you're going to calculate your product, and make sure when you're doing the hybrid, if you're doing a hybrid approach, your hourly rate accounts for your cost, your fixed and variable cost, so that when you get to the end result with that project, you're not losing money, or you're not just breaking even because you need to make a profit. And if you factor it in, it's much easier to make a profit than if you're just hoping that you can save money or be able to do the project faster or have multiple projects in a month that get you to that positive mark. You have to factor in, you have to plan on it so you can actually make it happen. So with that being said, really appreciate your time today. Would love it if you can like, comment, and share on this video. And with all of that, don't forget to grow as you go.